welcome you. I wanted to start off with this thought that somebody named Jordan Harrell wrote, which is, genocide is biblical, loving your enemy is biblical, but only one is Christ-like. Slavery is biblical, chain breaking is biblical, but only one is Christ-like. Patriarchy is biblical, countercultural elevation of women is biblical, but only one is Christ-like. Retributive violence is biblical, grace-filled restoration is biblical, but only one is Christ-like. Segregation is biblical, unity is biblical, but only one is Christ-like. Christ transforms, not the Bible. Be wary of those who know one, but not the other. Welcome.
Yeah. I read that before, but it seemed like it had more punch with Ana Rosa reading it. I need you, you need me. We're all part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me. sweat en más intenso dolor. Es fiel a sus promesas y me cuidará. De mi fe celando nunca fallará. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. Name on the throne, you are God, God alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to you this I love you, Jesus. I worship. Oh, I just want to tell you, Lord, I love you more than anything. Well, don't hold it back, right? Don't hold it back. I love you, Jesus, and I worship, and oh, I want to, Lord, I love you more than anything. I love you, Jesus. All right, so pause so that we can have our reading that Sally's going to lead us in. Is Sally leading us in our reading? Jacob's sick. Oh, Jacob's sick. Wow. A lot of folks sick, huh?
That time of year. Well, hello everybody.
Hello, Sally Wise.
So good to see everybody in person that's here. And those of you who want to can unmute to read along with us. Human beings can sometimes move fluidly from some kind of developmental immaturity and behavioral quirkiness to substance abuse to bona fide severe mental illness.
There's a
The
going
culture
to so well.
presence of healthy, buffering caregivers. We are all then, as my friend Pastor David Moore says, medics in a war zone. These medics have an ability to self-regulate in such a way that they produce chemicals of toxic stress even around. Sometimes we are caught in a paralyzing trance of fear and anxiety. Rather than defend our life and terrorize us, we find relief from our fear and acceptance of the terror and allow it to transform us, to just feel the pain rather than rush to fix it. I will now pass it on to Brigitte.
She's online.
Good morning, everybody. Today is October 27th, and I would love to welcome everybody here. All of you who are sitting there and having a wonderful together time, and all of us who are on Zoom who are getting to enjoy seeing you. It kind of reminds me of a long time ago when we were still in the loft, and one day Pastor said, "Why are we all looking forward?" And he changed our seats so that half of us were looking at the other half of the church. And it was really fun to do that. It was fun to see everyone. So now we can kind of do that electronically. Today's theme is going to be a transfer of power. I'm looking forward to seeing what that will be. We will not be another time. It'd be nice to have everybody enjoy time together. I would like to remind everyone that all financial giving is always greatly appreciated. and it helps keeps this ministry going. So thank you very much for all of your gifts. Next Sunday, we will only have Zoom, but we seem to be meeting about once a month, so keep your eyes open for next in-person meeting time. Dostoevsky, above all, don't lie to yourself. The man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to a point that he cannot distinguish the truth within him or around him, and so loses all respect for himself and for others. And having no respect, he ceases to love. I would like to remind everybody that on Tuesday, November the 5th, is the voting day, and that the precincts are open for in-person voting from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. If you aren't already registered to vote, you can still do so at the election day at any precinct, and you can vote that day. Any ballot that is postmarked by November 5th is still going to be tallied. At any precinct, doesn't have to be your own. And you can also drop it off in any of the drop boxes that are specially laid out for that. After church today, please stay and enjoy potluck lunch. If you didn't bring anything, don't worry about it. We always have tons and tons of food. We always have way too much. And we would just love to have your presence. So please stay and enjoy the special time that comes after church.
All right, thank you, Brigitte. So everybody take about 3 minutes to go and make sure that you've got a chance to greet somebody, right? And same online.
So Renee says hi. She wants to greet you. Renee's over here. She says hi.
Namaste.
Namaste. Okay, so we're checking out. That was the music part. So our moves. What? What? So stay with us. Stay alive.
Hi, Diane.
No, and I'm trying not to be centralized, but after months of knocking,
I love your voice. You hear my voice? I thought my mic was off. Beautiful song.
I think I just played my best music in the last hour there. Something going on there. It's really
Dance it out.
celebrate the day, man. So epic cool.
All right, my people. This is a good moment for us to say thank you to Roy and Lance and Matt here. All right. It always feels good when we do this. All right. It feels good. Probably feels better to Roy, Lance, Matt, and myself, but it feels good. Hello again, Zoom friends.
Oh, it looks like a busy place, doesn't it? It's clean and busy.
So, I would like to start this portion of our time together today by asking for your input on something. And you know, it doesn't have to be, the answers don't have to be right, they just have to be answers that you think, or someone told you, or whatever. So here's my opening question, and you know, it would be, maybe I should start with the folks on Zoom, but not only. So here's the question. What can you tell me about the biblical book of Daniel? What comes to mind when you, all right, so Cheryl and Roy are professionals, so I don't know if you answer first, then nobody else is going to say anything. So, anybody online? No hands are raised.
Lion.
Yeah. What do you know about the book of Daniel? Bonnie's hand is up, and Brigida, I think.
It's the story of. Are you here?
Yeah, we hear you.
Hello.
Go ahead, we hear you.
Okay. It's the story of Daniel taking the burr out of a lion's paw, and I always thought the story was about not being afraid to help somebody, even though they're bigger than you.
That's the way.
That's what I thought.
You know, Bonnie, that's interesting. I think what you just brought up is not actually in the book of Daniel. I think it's in one of the other, like Susanna, but Daniel is mentioned in that book. But I'm glad you brought that up because it reminds me to remind everybody that there are other books that may not be in a lot of traditional Bibles, you know, that are connected to the Hebrew tradition that make mention of Daniel. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Brigida.
Okay.
Well, now you got me wondering too. What I remembered, and I have not looked at it in eons, is that Daniel was thrown in the pit with lions and was not harmed by them.
He was not what?
Not harmed by them.
Okay. He was not harmed by them. Anybody else, either online or in person? What do you think of when you hear the book of Daniel?
He was fearless and full of faith.
Yeah, I think of his courage, yeah.
Ah. But you all didn't hear that, but courage, full of faith.
Protected.
Protected. Okay, Reverend Judith, your hand is up.
Yeah, I think that the thing that always struck me about that is that, like, he wasn't focused on the lions, like there's like a line in there. I don't have my Bible handy, but something about him being, giving them no mind or something. And that he was praying. You know, like his shield of protection and his connection was with God.
Ah, wow. It's a good conversation. Thank you, Judith. Anybody else? What do you think of when you hear the book of Daniel? Okay, Roy and Cheryl?
We want to hear what you think.
What do you think of? Here, the book of Daniel.
All the things that were mentioned. And some kind of odd apocalyptic stuff. Yeah.
One who stood for his values.
Yeah.
He didn't back down.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah, I think it's like, for me, it's like thinking, like he kept his eyes on the prize. Like it's, it was like this humble,
Wow.
continuing to like step in like faith, of course, but it's like, the lions, I think, represent like, they're out to get you, you know, like they're the big kind of like, dangerous, yeah, kind of like powerful systems, if you will, like the three lions, the three heads that are kind of like going to come after you. So thinking about how he like moved through that, he just stayed focused and like, I don't remember exactly, but how the people around him kind of got him through and stayed focused on like what a kind of the other side of the lions, not so much kind of like not getting caught in the forest or getting caught in the lions, but like, so what is the other side of the system? What is the imagination of the world he's going to?
So this is a good, a great setting of the tone. I mean, all of this input, and I'm thinking of how Daniel has a place in the album, the historical album of the West, and has a very special place in the Black church story. Other than the book of Exodus, I don't know if I remember a book referenced so frequently as the book of Daniel growing up, going to church. And that would include Daniel's story and the story of the three Hebrew children, which were not exactly children, but that's the way it's translated in some Bibles, who refused to bow down when everybody was bowing down to this obelisk under threat of death. Those three, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. In fact, I think one of the early times I heard that, it was, and I'm not just making this up, I heard Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro instead of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So that's kind of like part of the Black church lore. So I think it's also good to be aware of the fact that these are the Hebrew scriptures, the first 39 books, if you will, of what is called the Christian Bible. It is not actually the Christian Bible, it is the Hebrew scriptures. And I think it's important for us to be aware that we are appropriating the ancient historical texts, or you could call it the indigenous wisdom of a people that whose lineage brings us Jesus. But then there are so many things that Jesus says and does that are counter to his own ancestral tradition. I think it's important for us to realize that these scriptures can be seen as holy, the Hebrew scriptures, but so can the recorded, whether in print or oral traditions, the recorded histories of all people should be seen as something holy. there's an indigenous Episcopal priest, and his name eludes me right now, but if you want to know and you don't know about him already, I can message you later. But he's indigenous, and he talks about how as he studied more and more of Jesus, he began to realize that the idea of Jesus, the idea of a Christ figure, is something that could be arrived at from native traditions and stories. And I remember I was at an Indigenous Peoples Conference in Alberta, Canada, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And one of the presenters, I think he was Cree, he talked about, he showed pictures, painting his own art, and he talked about how it was embedded in the ancient history of Turtle Island, North America. He talked about how it was, it was part of his story. And the legends that he told us about, he says, now I know that these stories sound far-fetched to you, but are they any more far-fetched than a talking donkey? Which is in the Hebrew Scriptures, right? And so we need to know where mythology brings lessons about reality and truth and history. Anyway, when we look at the appropriated book of Daniel, there's a section here that I'm intrigued by. And it's different from the ones that were brought up here today. It's from the 5th chapter of Daniel. King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in front of the 1,000. Belshazzar, when he tasted the wine, commanded that the vessels of gold and silver that Nebuchadnezzar, his father, had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem be brought, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought in the golden vessels that had been taken out of the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem. And the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. I mean, think of the chutzpah. Think. Verse 5, immediately the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, opposite the lampstand, or the menorah. And the king saw the hand as it wrote. Then the king's color changed, and his thoughts alarmed him. His limbs gave way, and his knees knocked together. Quote, this is the message that was written, Mene, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin. This is what these words mean. Mene means numbered. God has numbered the days of your reign and has brought it to an end. Tekel means weighed. You have been weighed in the balances and have not measured up. Parsin means divided. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then at Belshazzar's command, Daniel was dressed in purple robes and a gold chain was hung around his neck, and he was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, the Babylonian king, was killed. So what we just observed was the changing of hands of empire. And they are, if you will, profaning the elements of the temple, the menorah, the bowls, the utensils, the candles. They have profaned these things because they took what had been in the temple, the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. They had brought them, the Babylonians had brought them, relocated them, but Nebuchadnezzar had kept them in storage as though there was some kind of respect for them. But his son Belshazzar did not keep them in storage. He brought them out, and it was party time. And they praised the gods of the material, the gods of gold and silver. While all of this was going on, it makes me think that Jesus would see this very differently. That it's not so much that the vessels of gold and silver that are so important, that are so sacred, but it is the vessels that are human. That's the way Jesus would teach us things like this. That what is important and what is being profaned are human beings. That they should be held in high esteem. That they should be seen as holy. But now they are being treated as things, as mere things, to enhance a party, to shame their past, not only the past of the Jewish people, but their own past, because remember, Dad, Nebuchadnezzar, saw the world very differently from his son Belshazzar. So what happens next is that King Belshazzar is dethroned. He is killed after it is pointed out that the handwriting is on the wall. Now, one thing that it would behoove any state, any empire, one thing it would be important to ask itself is that what is the lifespan for this entity? How long is it? It's kind of like, especially in our society, we are not inclined to talk about death. We're shocked when it happens. Like, well, it happens. It happens all the time. But it's not something that we want to talk about in polite society, in polite conversation, especially when it comes to our own death. We don't even necessarily want to say the word death. We like euphemisms like, passed away and transition and things like that. But we don't want to say she died, he died. We don't want to talk about, we don't want to say she's going to die. We don't want to say he is close to death. Those are things that are less said than the euphemisms that we use. The same thing applies to the American Empire.
We can't hear you, David.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
That's better.
Sorry about that, everybody. I thought I had it down. Okay, and jump in if it feels like you're losing me again. Where was I?
Presumption. You don't like to talk about death.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about death of empire. We've got to change the subject. Just like anytime somebody's talking about something that's uncomfortable, we like to come in from another place and talk about something else. But we need to talk about this. We need to talk about if not the end of empire, the change of empire. Because this is what Daniel experienced. It was not the end of empire, it was the transition from one empire, from the Babylonians to the Medes and the Persians. And here's something interesting of note, is that things actually, in the short run, got better for Daniel. See, Daniel had an elevated government position, but he got a better position when the empire, when the Babylonians, who were known to be more cruel, whereas the Persian Empire that would arise had a policy that was different from many other empires of the time. And that was, they allowed you to continue to operate with your culture and your religion. Just make sure you pay the taxes. Right? So this is why, fast forwarding a few years, the king of Persia that would eventually take the helm, Cyrus, he gave favor to the Jewish people to return from their captivity to go back to Jerusalem and to rebuild. Well, you know, there are people today who refer to Donald Trump as Cyrus because it says there, Cyrus, my anointed. And people really see Donald Trump as the anointed one, someone who gives favor to a certain group of people. Now, there's a difference between Cyrus and Donald Trump. Well, let me count the ways, but I'm not going there. All right, so the thing, in terms of polity, Cyrus gave this kind of freedom and latitude to all of the peoples that he conquered, not just one group of people. But somehow it gets interpreted through the lens of Christian evangelicalism or Christian nationalism that we need a person in power who favors us as in white evangelicals is really what it boils down to. But Daniel, he faced a lot of resistance and his life was endangered when he was in the earlier empire, the Babylonian Empire, when it transitioned, when there was a transition of power. He was given recognition and wealth and even higher position and role in the empire. Now, it wasn't durable, but just bear this in mind. This was not the end point, the arrival expected by Daniel, all right? Daniel was not pulling for the Persians, all right? I mean, he's under Babylonian rule, but he's not saying, I hope the Persians invade and take over. Maybe they'll be nice to me. No. He envisioned a return to his own homeland and a restoration of his own fortunes, his own people's fortunes. How does that apply to us? We need to remember that our affinity, that our bond is with a whole other domain. All right? We are not just anticipating another empire that might make it a little better for us as much as in the human condition. We would like to have some perks, right? We would like to have the forgiveness of student loans, right? We would like to have a woman's right to choose. We would like to have no more voter suppression, all of these things. These things are wonderful. We want these things, but they are not the end game for people of faith and compassion. The end game is a world that looks like that, not a legislation that reflects some of that. We're looking, and this is why Jesus talks, I'm using his language here, he talked about the kingdom of God. And what he was saying is that your standards are too low. And let me tell you, I don't know what your standards are for the world that we can have and we are deserving of. But don't settle for just anything. Don't just settle for whatever is being handed down. No matter what changes, no matter what improvements any of us experiences in this world, listen, I want those improvements because life can be a grind sometime. But folks, we need more. And if nobody envisions more, if nobody steps back and says, I have a dream, right? If nobody articulates the dream, if nobody paints the picture, then everybody will find themselves, for the most part, settling for less. So this is why you have, I'll go ahead and say, this is why you have people who are prophets in the world. This is why you have people who are prophets who, in their moment of expression, they are misunderstood, they are rejected, they are laughed at, they are scorned in the moment that they make their announcements. And they're trying to figure out Why doesn't everybody see what I see? Why doesn't everybody get this? Am I talking to anybody right now? Right? You're thinking, why doesn't everybody in the world get this? It's as plain as a nose on your face. It's so real. But then when you begin to speak up, people are like saying, no hablo. What are you talking about? They don't, And the thing is that we still have this, and I'll say this one more time. I said it each of the past 2 weeks. When people ask, what are you doing to take care of yourself? My response has been, I'm standing in solidarity with the disinherited. Okay, listen. I'm aware of and participate in the practices, right? I mean, meditation and prayer and reading and all of these things, being a conscious eater, being a conscious sleeper, all of these things. But you know what? Let me tell you, I do those things so that I can stay in solidarity with the disinherited. Are you hearing me? All right? I'm meditating not for the end purpose of meditating. I'm meditating because this whole world is trying to shake me loose from my convictions. This whole world is trying to shake me free from my values. This whole world is trying to shake me free from my moral center. My moral center is standing in solidarity with the disinherited. And the reason that I am a conscious eater, or the reason that I pray and I meditate, is not because I want to do those things really well. It's because everything is working against me standing in solidarity with the disinherited. So let's open the floor. And that includes our Zoom friends. If nothing else, I hope you go away prepared to talk about death of empire, whatever that means. Yeah, come on, Matt, and then Barbara.
Speaking call today. Here we go. Change is hard. So there's I learned from James Lawson once. He's the teacher of John Lewis, and he talked about Daniel and nonviolence in the ways they were fighting the three lions, and they called the three lions Bull Connor and what's the governor's name in Alabama?
George Wallace?
George Wallace, and there was another one that he named during that time period.
Sheriff Joe. Joe Clark.
Yeah, Joe Clark. And so he called them the three lions, and they were going in there, and just like in Daniel, where Baraka and Hezekiah and anyways, the other one, they prepared ahead of time. So James Lawson, when they were doing their nonviolent stuff, they were in a room just like this, reenacting experiences that they were going to face in the future. So that way, when they faced them, they knew the steps that they needed to walk. They knew what that faith felt like to get through those hard experiences. And so when I think of, I lean on the teachings of James Lawson when thinking about those things. When we're thinking about November 5th, and we're thinking about that, we need to know what it feels like to come and hear at 9 p.m. to say the votes are counted, and it's DT. And what that feels like. And then know how to move through that as community. Yes, we need to sit with that feeling, but we also need to know what that is like now, to be able to support one another, to be able to come together to know how to movement and what the world is going to feel like and act like, because otherwise it's reactive. And change is hard in a reactive state. We don't want, we respond, we stay grounded, we move in that faith. And so when I think of change is hard, it's hard because like we're always just trying to go like do like snap responses. But if we have that enacted faith, that engaged like that's just something that we could. It's hard and it's scary because those are feelings that we don't want to feel. It's uncomfortable to feel those, to think about those, but doing that is what is going to get us to the other side, just like Daniel. So.
Thank you, Matt. I was actually going to say that. Come on, Barbara. Until we get our wireless mics.
Wireless mic. So, when you were talking about kind of what would strike us in the future, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but I just immediately was thinking of war and violence and weapons and killing people, killing children, killing moms, killing young men. And that is the only solution that we seem to still have in the year 2024. And I cannot vote for anyone that it has a chance November 5th that doesn't believe that violence is not, that violence, they both believe that violence is the answer. They both believe that we have to have nuclear weapons. They both believe that we have to support Israel. They both believe that we have to kill children, that we have to kill men and women. And I'm getting angry. And I'm getting so angry that I don't even want to vote. I'm gonna vote, but I guess that's the depressing part to me, is I don't see the future yet. So I really appreciate your talk. I wanted to be here this morning because I feel like I can't even talk to anybody in my life now, except for my husband and the people here in this room. I'm talking about my lifelong Democrat teacher friends, my lifelong Democrat people from Philadelphia. I can't have a conversation because they're mad at me for who I'm gonna vote for. So I just wanna thank you that I can be here, that I can even say this, but the violence is tearing me apart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Barbara.
Yeah, that's that.
Amen. I gotta say something. Hey everybody, my name is Alanson Charles, and I've been studying this issue for a long time, since I was a little kid. You know, and I found God, I found like that place on earth. You remember that time, when that morning, spring, you know, the spring air hit, and I was there, and I was going to church, you know, I was in the church choir then too. I've been in church for a long time, and watching this stuff go down. And you know, the thing of it is that we're onto something, and we've been forced, you know, I study, there's a thing called the Brown Book of Hitler Terror. And if you want to know step-by-step playbook, it's an assessment of what was done to the German people. It's a very academic approach to looking at it, but you can see then the parallels of what we are in. And it's very hard to see inside the terror. And this is as close to a manufactured terror than, and I just have to say it, because through other teachers we know that if we confront this, exactly what he said, to practice what could possibly go wrong and then get through it. You know, and you know, for everything that I've ever done, it's a series of near-death experiences. It's like, I'm gonna die if I don't get this A, if I don't get this thing. If I start this race, I end up last, I'm gonna die. And then you end up last, and you didn't die. And you do it again, and you keep doing it. That's what we do every single day. We do this thing. Now, today, right before this meeting, I heard the speech of a lifetime. And I really, if you're feeling this way, you've just got to get in with this thing, because it's a movement. This is what we've been waiting for. And it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. We've Gotta get to the other side before we can unravel all of this stuff. We have to go back to start where we were 4 years ago. We have to go back 50 years to rewrite it. Now we can actually rewrite the Constitution to make it look like us. How about that? Can you imagine that? Let's just rewrite it. We have to get there first. You can't get there now. We can't get there now. We can see across it. Wasn't that the greatest message? I gotta say, it's coming into me now, you know. I will not be there with you, but I can see across the mountain. I can see to the other side. We know that we're in this perfect place, okay? We have what we need, and we've been lied to again. And again, and again, and again. We're so used to swallowing the lie. But the truth of it is that there's plenty. And mostly we have too much. And we need to give more away. And the folks at the border are waiting to take the jobs that we need to get them to have. The Chinese economy is about to crash. The Russian economy is about to crash. As you say, all they know is weapons of mass destruction, but the people know better. We need a global economy. For me, it came as one whole earth. Somebody handed me a thing called the Whole Earth Catalog. I suggest you go get one. Read through it. Meditate through that. See the possibilities. There's more than you can handle. Wasn't that Paul Hawkins' message? You remember Paul Hawkins? Does anybody know Paul Hawkins here? Just one last thing. Look up Paul Hawkins. Went out for a few companies that were doing green and good. Just wanted to find a few to see if they were actually doing anything good. The list lasted hours. The list lasted hours. This is the tsunami. This is the big blessed unrest that they talked about. The blessed unrest, the tsunami of love. We know in our gardens, in our front lawns, in our backyards, what is right. You know, if you really want to end all that, I pray for you. But I'll be there praying for you. Thanks.
God bless you, Lance. Okay, so I think I don't see any more hands raised. I can go. Kenichi.
That's the guy.
Barbara, I can really identify with you because I've been extremely angry with this country, with the colony of Israel, with the West. We've been lied to over and over, and I think my eyes have been opened even, I cannot explain to the dimension that I've never had to reconcile with, if you will. I'm very sorry to my wife who have gotten the brunt of in my home. I mean, things that I have said, the way I have behaved, and I'm trying to be better. I even I had a conversation with a colleague of mine at work, and the moment I said,
Can't hear you.
The sound is complete.
Gotta get you guys with Renee.
okay, can you hear me now?
Renee, we gotta.
Can you hear me now?
It's on.
Okay. So I kept my
Yes,
cool.
yes, we.
Okay, so I kept my cool, and I said, that's not what I read. I've been studying the history, and I've been reading. And so I just kind of, I kind of de-escalated the situation, and then she had such concern for me. She said, I'll pray for you, that you return back to your roots. And I said, I don't think I'm going back there. Because I said, nobody can use the Old Testament to me and say the Jews own that. No, they don't. Even as you were mentioning about Daniel and about going back to their place, I have a difficulty even with that. Because if we read the Old Testament, they went and took over the land, and the way they could only do that is to kill the people and wipe out. So the land never belonged to the Zionists or the Jews in the first place. Never. And when I saw the picture of people the Palestinians being rounded up in the north and told to leave, I said, that's what it looked like back then. Right. But we use it so flippantly in the church. I don't know when I can even preach from the Old Testament at this moment, because I'm just like, this is a biased document that's leaning towards their history, and every religious or sacred scripture has that element. And I shared this with my colleague, and she was utterly shocked. She thought I was like, who? Like, you call yourself a Christian? I said, I call myself a Jesus follower. You call yourself a Jesus follower even with that? I just left it at that. But anyway, all this to say is I'm processing, and thank you for this, bits and pieces of encouragement. And because in my heart, I want to see this country go down in power-wise, because it's been pushing other countries or states around for so long and trying to manipulate and to threaten other states with their military power. It's time for the US empire to go down. And it's time for the state of Israel to dissolve and the land given back to the indigenous people. That's my hope.
Let's get there first.
Well,
Hot topic.
I didn't start. Maybe I did. Just one example of how we have been and are currently being gaslighted. Some of you have noticed in recent news that Cuba is experiencing blackouts and power failures. What you'd never read is that the reason this is happening is because of the US embargo on Cuba. That conveniently doesn't come up in mainstream reporting, is that they wouldn't be dealing with this if it wasn't for the embargo. Add to that the fact that 3 times it has come up at the United Nations, a referendum to end the US embargo on Cuba. And each time the vote was 145-2 in favor of the US ending the embargo. You know who the 2 countries are that voted for the US to continue the embargo? The US and Israel. Because the US and Israel support each other regardless of what conscience says.
51st state. We gotta get there.
Yes.
Gotta get there first.
51st state.
Gotta get there first.
So,
can't do it with lawlessness.
but we need, when you find out you've been gaslit, it's uncomfortable, right? It's liberating, but it's also like, it's like you get mad, like Nietzsche, you get mad. When you find out you've been gaslighted, it makes you mad. And, we're all going to do what we're going to do. We're going to vote how we're going to vote. But we need to be able to talk about things. We need to be able to talk about death. Doesn't mean that we want it or that we're chasing it, but we're not running away from it and pretending it's not there. why we come together like this and have communion, right? So that we are not intimidated by death, but we actually find some kind of solace in the power of death and the power of life over death. So Roy's going to come and lead us in communion. All right, so hang in there, everybody.
I feel like David always gives the hardest Sundays for me to do communion. So, what meaning do we find in broken bread and poured out cup? Where do we find hope in the memory of Jesus being arrested and tried and executed? Where do we find the presence of God when it feels like the evil is overwhelming? And my hope is, my faith is, when I have enough courage to have it, is that God is not yet finished. And even when it is seemingly as hopeless as it can possibly be, that there is yet another word to be spoken. On the night when Jesus was betrayed by those who were his closest friends, and we like to think that it was all Judas. Well, it wasn't all Judas. It was all of them who turned their back on him and then ran and hid. When he was betrayed, he took the bread and he broke it and he said, "It's me, broken for you." And I'm struck that when he said that, there wasn't any word of hope there beyond that. He just said, broken for you. He never said, it's going to come back together again. It's going to be okay in 3 days. He said, no, this. I am broken for you. And implication there was that God's not done yet, but we may not see it just yet.
Looks like God's done.
Yeah. Take the bread and eat it, that his willingness to be broken is remembered, and that our willingness to be broken is inspired. Take the bread and eat. When the meal was completed, he took that final cup and he said, "This cup is my blood poured out." It is the cup of this new agreement with God. This reminder that yes, indeed, God is not finished yet. The final word has not yet been spoken. And so we drink it in hope, in faith, in trust. And for those of us sitting here, most of all, we drink it in commitment to be part of that word that is yet to be spoken. Take the cup and drink. And so we are broken for one another. We are broken for our siblings in more places than we can name. We are poured out for one another. We are poured out for our siblings in more places than we can name. And even as our hearts break, let us always be reminded that God is not yet finished and the final word has not yet been spoken. And when God is finished and when that final word is spoken, we will experience the kingdom of God in all of its fullness.